Hello and welcome to Lands Unknown Live. My name is Will, and today we are joined again by Biblaridion. Hello, Bib. Welcome to the channel.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me again.
Again. You're sticking around for the series. Oh, here we go. Lovely creatures. Thank you so much. I spent some time afterwards making them look a little more pretty, and I was experimenting with
Yeah,
some patterns and things.
very, very gracile form in the foreground there. I'm blanking on the name, but yeah, one of the some of the early pseudoseuchians have a
Yeah.
sort of profile like that.
Yeah, so I was looking at some of the early pseudoseuchians. We were also talking about this one maybe having a longer neck and of becoming. These ones were the ones that we were thinking of becoming bipedal. So I was kind of, hedging towards that. We also have the tail that's kind of thicker at the base and becomes more whip-like.
Mm.
And I did want some more color, and we do have purple as a tincture. And I was thinking about like when I was a kid, I had anoles as pets, and like they have like the what is it, dewlaps.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So having dewlaps, I thought could be an interesting way to kind of incorporate some color.
Hmm.
Um,
I have for whatever reason, I have tried at several points to for alien biospheres. There were several different clades that I tried to incorporate a sort of purple tint in their display structures, and for some
mhm.
reason, I could never make it look right. I just I
It
don't know,
is.
just something about it just didn't work. So I always defaulted to like a blue or a green or something.
I think this one works out.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem is just with the modeling software that I was using, just the
Oh
blending mode.
yeah.
For some reason, just it never came out looking like a nice proper purple at all. It just kind of looked, I don't know, either way too bright and neon, or it just kind of
Mm.
looked muddy, and I just didn't like it. But if we're doing it in a traditional analog style, then yeah, I think purple can definitely work.
Could come out, yeah. And we got a bunch of folks in the comments. Yes, hello, Matt the Awesome. You finally did not miss it. Hello as always to Kate. Awesome seeing you here.
Hello.
Writer 2, hello. And of course, Soup Crime is here, and Matt made a new world. So that's fun. And before we get started, Bib, you are going to be in Ireland for SpecCon, giving a
Mm.
talk about convergence and contingency. And we've
Hmm.
got a list of the other speakers here. Jake, friend of the channel, is going to talk about religion. Madeline is going to be talking about fusing magic. Nikolai from the World Building Pasta blog, who also has a channel, who was talking about a paper. I believe the paper that Nikolai was talking about was about the potential for like a ring system around Earth.
Yeah, there was a paper
Yeah.
at some point, I think it was last year or the year before, that tentatively, found some evidence that suggested that at one point Earth might have had some rings, which is a pretty fun idea, but I think that's far from confirmed at this point.
Yes. Um, and so geological toolkit, that is very cool. And then the Petersons are going to talk about naming, and Artifexians is going to have music langing. So
Mm.
a very, very exciting setup. We have the schedule here with, oh, can't see Tato. There we go. There's a Tato. The, uh, what's that? Mascot for SpecCon. So for everyone heading out there or who has the time for it, I would definitely make the attempt. I have my own conference
Mhm.
that I am presenting at, uh, not related to world building. Well, kind of related to world building, but not related to world building. So I'm not going to be there. But for everyone who
Related
can
to
be there,
real world building.
yes, real world building. That is very true. Hello, Kairos. Oh, and you learned Exo plus Sim. Yes, that is going to be that
Mm.
is an annoying thing to do, especially like if you work with ClimaSim. I mean, there's so many GIS softwares and things that are difficult to work with. They tend to be
Mhm.
made for like a specialist audience. And what is it? I saw someone post a screenshot from the G Plates website, and in their advertising material, they're like easy to use. And for me, it's like, yes, it is much easier to use than other academic software I've encountered.
Mm.
But
And Soup Crime, so as I understand it at the moment, there is going to be an attempt to record and post the talks, but that whether how feasible that ends up being, we'll see what the setup is like once we actually get into the conference room, and we're gonna play around with the tech and see what we can do. So fingers crossed, we will get some recordings out of it. And I'm not even sure if I should say this now, but if it doesn't end up getting recorded, or even if it does end up getting recorded, I'm thinking I might adapt this talk into a video later anyway. So you'll probably see something at least something in a similar vein later, hopefully later this year.
fantastic. Looking forward to that. And because Bib is going to be in Ireland next week, I'll probably do a miscellaneous stream and work on something else for a bit. There's the Polity chart or something else that I can do. And then we will be back doing Spec Critters on the 14th.
Mhm.
So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about Gryphons next week, I mean, I could talk about Gryphons. Depends on what the chat's up for. That is why. All right. So last time we developed 4 kind of archetypes based on the Tene and the Vea Gryphons. Let's and I made them a little cuter after the fact. I still haven't done the third kind of type for this. I'll probably do that after this stream, but before the next stream. So we have, and that one is going to be like the larger sort of apex predator. We have somewhat of a smaller, more cursorial predator with the hooked pseudobeak for kind of gripping and holding prey.
Mhm.
We've got the very gracile 10A griffins, which we may start calling the purple griffins, just because of their dewlaps. If I can incorporate that structure somewhat throughout some of their later designs. I think after the 50 million year mark, we'll probably get some more variation in like the facultative and then I guess obligate bipedal ones out of that. And we also did the Vere Griffins. Oh, these ones are not the ones that are more. These are the rougher ones. So we got one that is more of a durophage, and it is going in a variety of directions, eating. What was it? Wood? Yes. So like eating. Oh no. Or is that this one? Yes. This one is eating wood and mixed vegetation, and it's
Mhm.
got the iron in its pseudobeak.
Oh yes.
And it is the more heavily armored one, including the armor, the ventral armor, in addition to the dorsal armor.
Mhm.
And then we have this durophage who's eating a variety of hard-shelled small critters, as well as things like nuts. And eventually, they are going to be eating bones and things as well. So yes, we got those 2 forms down, but the one that we really wanted to focus on today was going to be, where's our little guy? Whoop. The Rhynchosaur-esque beaked one, which is kind of going to be our group that stands in for things like rodents and reptiles and stuff like that. So let's grab that one.
Hello, Jake.
Jake's here. Hello, Jake. All right, so let's close. Getting all my ducks in a row. Should have done that sooner. But, all right. Paste.
All your crocs in a row, more like.
All my crocs in a row. All my griffins in a row. Where are my griffins at? Right. Very much pink fairy armadillo flavored.
Yes. Lovely.
Yeah, we'll work with the studio pen for now. So, we are going to go in a few directions with the rose griffin. That is way too small. Okay. I imagine that they will stick around looking like this for quite some time. Just seems like a decent form to have, kind of, rodentish. I'm sure they could fill a bunch of niches looking like that.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty good sort of basis for this very sort of adaptable starting point.
And from our sort of rough cladogram here, we did have them becoming an insectivorous group with a longer beak for catching various insects and things, and they would more or less have kind of a similar profile. Maybe they'd start with somewhat not short limbs, but they're gonna continue having their short-ish limbs for climbing before we get into the next period, which is the 50 million year to 25 million year mark, where we start getting the sort of ovivorous and kind of dracivorous ones. So yeah, so that's this one. Is that a hidden layer? No, it's not. Okay, cool. I can't spell. All right. Boom. So we're going to have the insectivorous ones. And in addition to that, we were talking last time about fossorial lifestyles, eusociality, and limblessness. I think we were talking about that in the context of the ver griffins. However, the sizes of those at this point are kind of large, especially like this little guy here. I'm imagining them more badgerish,
Sure.
but for the rose griffin, we were talking about a different direction, because if a group of these starts becoming fossorial, then we have the potential for limblessness, and these ones are, they're smaller critters. So let's go here. Oh my gosh. All right, and the idea for these ones is that they are going to be limbless. And we had a bit of a discussion about the path for this. I believe that we wanted them to be limbless first.
Before
then-
eusociality.
Yes, before eusociality.
Yeah, either way, I think would be justifiable. It would just be a question of how you wanted these different traits to show up. Because I should say that like limblessness is correlated with fossoriality,
Hmm.
but that doesn't mean that like limblessness is just one particular way that species can adapt for burrowing. Like specifically, if a species um, is a burrowing animal that the limbs do not play a role in how it is digging. Like if it's moving through the soil through like side to side undulations of the body, for example, then the
Yeah.
limbs are just getting in the way, so they can be lost. So that seems to be what happened with snakes, with the various different kinds of legless lizards, with caecilians, with amphisbaenians, and possibly a few other groups as well. Whereas mammalian, for whatever reason, mammals don't seem to have convergently evolved anything similar, like most burrowing mammals, despite the fact that mammals are like ancestrally burrowing animals. Like about 3/4 of all extant mammal species show some adaptations for burrowing, and yet none of them have ever lost their limbs. So it just seems like, for whatever reason, with the way that mammals move, they just rely more on their limbs than reptiles do. But yeah, since these are suciforms, these are moving in a similar way to crocodilians, which, you know, largely move in the same way as the lizards that gave rise to legless lizards and snakes, etc., then
Hmm.
I think limblessness in this situation is definitely justifiable.
And are there limbless, like, I don't know offhand, like salamanders, newts, and stuff like that? Or
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
there's
I think
this.
there are some that have no back legs. What are those called?
There are so there's one particular group of amphibians called the Caecilians, which are these limbless, um, very very weird animals in terms of like there's a lot of aspects of their anatomy that are just very unusual, and I'm not sure we know where they fit into the greater family tree of amphibians. But yeah, they are limbless.
Okay.
And then you've got the oddball that is the Mexican mole lizard, which has retained two tiny front limbs but no back limbs.
Okay.
Which I guess is just because of the specific way that it moves through the soil. It just helps to have these tiny little grasping hands at the front to help sort of claw its way along. And I used that as I did the same thing with the apodomorphs in alien biospheres. They've got these little front legs that help them sort of crawl along.
Yes. Okay. I remember that. Okay. So that's where that comes from. So we can have. I'm imagining something more snakish because I do like the idea of combining, I guess, the fear that people have of things like snakes and mice and rats and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so there's this idea that is very I don't know if controversial is the right word. I guess it is controversial in some sense, but the so-called snake detection hypothesis, which is this idea that humans have an instinctive fear of things that are snake shaped because humans, the
Oh yes,
environment
I've
that
heard of
humans
this.
evolved in, there were venomous snakes there, and so they've like done studies where they um, take pictures of different animals and like pixelate them and make them really blurry and then gradually unblur them, and just people across the board are quicker to recognize snakes than other animals. And so the authors of the paper say like, oh well, that's tentative evidence that we have some like pareidolik mechanism of like spotting snakes because they're just dangerous. Which I don't know. I think the jury is still very much out on that, but I don't know. In
Yeah.
this case, like I don't know if the Dovians would have a limbless suciform detection mechanism, depending on how dangerous these things are. Which eusocial animals tend to be quite aggressive, so maybe.
Yes. I think them being somewhat aggressive. I mean, we're talking about what was it? The different like what the workers could have and stuff like that, and they could be venomous and things. So we
Yeah.
could have. I mean, they'd be coming from a that head is too big for that little body there. Let's hmm. That's better. Maybe that's better. I'll work on it at some point. Yeah, so we're talking about them being somewhat venomous. What I like the idea is that they become fossorial and limbless. So they become limbless first, and then we can have some more solitary varieties that are hunting a variety of things, and then we can also have a smaller group, like physically smaller animals that are explicitly eusocial. And burrowing snakes. Do burrowing snakes have head displays and things like that? I'm thinking of, I don't know, maybe like certain rattlesnakes and things.
Not that I'm aware of. So like the general rule with borrowing things is that you want to have as few sticky out bits as possible, as few things that can like snag in like tight burrows. So burrowing animals tend to have very like closely linked scales and little to no fur, with the marginal exception of moles, or true moles, have this special type of fur that it's like omnidirectional. Like it's not, it can sort of splay in any direction, which means that if they get like stuck in a burrow, they can reverse, they can move backwards, and the fur doesn't like get stuck or like inhibit their movement in any way.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, generally they're going to want to have a design that's as sleek as possible. So, like these scales that are covering them, they could be, yeah, just quite closely linked together without any sort of without any kind of bumpy bits. Yeah, I guess kind of broadly similar to the scoots on a snake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, I was also thinking about having um, ventral scoots as well, if they're kind of moving along the
Mm-hmm.
ground, to kind of protect their bellies from stuff that would be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, I do still want them to be furred in some way. So maybe having some of this omnidirectional fur could be useful.
Along the side, maybe. Yeah.
Along the sides, yeah, if they have ventral and dorsal scales.
In fact, it occurs to me that they might end up with something broadly similar to one of my favorite animals of all time, the sea mouse.
The sea mouse,
The sea mouse, which is a polychaete worm, which I love polychaetes.
which is a worm. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
All right.
So they've
What
got
is this?
so they've
Yes.
yeah, they've got these really bright iridescent strips of fur along the side of their bodies.
Okay. This is adorable. This is I'm I love it. I don't know what we're gonna do with this, but I do like the iridescent fur on the side.
Mm.
And if we do make a bunch of things related to this venomous, and like the filaments they have, the fibers on their sides aren't like
Hmm.
mammal fur, right? Like they're, I guess these fibers are a bit different. So I wouldn't be, yeah. So I think iridescent fibers could be fun, but like if you do have, like I'm thinking like in the jungle, you have like this little uh this little limbless griffin on a leaf or
Hmm.
something, and it's venomous or poisonous or toxic or whatever, and it has like iridescent fur on the side
Yeah.
as kind of like a warning.
Yeah, exactly. If
Uh,
like predator comes along and is like digging it through the ground or something and unearths this thing, it's got these very bright, colorful patches along its side, then
like do
the
not
moment
eat
it
me.
sees that, yeah, like, oh boy, I better stay away from this thing.
The internal anatomy of snakes is kind of wild. Yeah, like how much of them is tail? Isn't most
Yes.
of their body like?
So this is
Let's
a
find a picture.
another
This is important.
weird thing. So it is actually one of the synapomorphies, or one of like the defining morphological characteristics of vertebrates, that all species of vertebrates have a tail at some point in their life cycle. Um, and so the actual tail of a snake
Hmm.
is
Really small.
basically, yeah, not that much of its body length. Um,
Oh.
and the sort of formal definition of what constitutes a tail is the portion of the spine that extends past the anus is the general definition. Yeah, which is another reason why caecilians are so weird. It's because even though they are limbless, technically speaking, they do not have tails.
Ah, okay. So wait, so it just kind of ends with their anus, I suppose then.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Now I'm also and this is a thing with seahorses too. Because you may think that the pouch of the seahorse is on its torso.
Hmm.
However, it is actually on its tail. The torso
Ah.
of the seahorse is up here, and the pouch is actually just below the anus, so it's on the tail.
Mm.
It's not on the trunk. They're just mostly tail.
Yeah. Seahorses are wacky.
Seahorses are wacky little
Mm.
critters.
Mm.
Okay, so let's get this through, and then they will be having a variety of little fibers that are going to be wacky colors, not just for their protection, but also so other critters don't decide to eat them.
Mm.
So I'm sure they wouldn't be very big fans of that.
And yes, Kate, sea mice are worms and sea pigs are cucumbers.
And you've also heard that ferrets have a similar anatomy adaptations to snakes, I believe,
Hmm.
because they're long and slender. They're
They
kitten
are long and
snakes.
slender.
Would you still love the idea of a sea mouse if it's a worm? The eternal question.
I would love it, especially if it were a worm.
Because it is a worm. We love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
One of my great one thing that, like, if I had the power to change the course of life on Earth, in any particular way, so that we ended up with a different assemblage of species. I would have loved to see what would happen if polycute worms evolved to inhabit the land, because they are really crazy animals, and yet there are no terrestrial ones, which is kind of a shame.
All right, so we got that did not turn out how I thought it would. Oh, the eraser can fix it though. You know what? His eyes look kind of weird, but I think that works. Oh, and then the brood pouch. Now this is an interesting.
Oh. Hmm. I hadn't even considered that, but yeah, that's going to have some pretty severe implications.
Well, I mean, one solution of this is the eusociality, right? Like if you have male, um, if you have a male limbless gryphon, and having the brood pouch, restricts it, then maybe they're in the colony, they're the ones who are kind of not moving.
Yeah, that I can see that will probably have some pretty big implications for how the um, eusociality will actually manifest. So it might not be because, like in ants, the males are semiparous, so they, on the night of the nuptial flight, all of the
Yep.
males of the colony just leave, find a female to mate with, and then as soon as they're done mating, they just die. And
Hmm.
then the females store the male sperm inside their bodies, and just using the sperm from that one mating, they have enough sperm to continue producing offspring for the next 30 years or so. So in this case, if the males are the ones who are actually like gestating the young, then
Yeah.
that kind of requires that you would have something more like termites, because in termites, each nest is headed by, well, not headed by, but each nest has both a queen and a king, and they mate
Hmm.
continuously to produce new eggs. So you might more end up with a more directly monogamous system.
Well, what I imagine being what I hope is that uh yeah, what I hope for it too is that these creatures, are causing, like, they become like the vermin essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, if you have an infestation of these things, it's like, oh no, you have to find the breeding couple, or else you're going to be dealing with
Yeah.
or else you're going to be dealing with this infestation for quite some time. Um, Soup Crime also mentioned the brood pouch moving to one side and having asymmetrical features.
Hmm.
Now, I want to go look at that snake anatomy again. Here we go. Yeah,
Snakes
because
do have asymmetric lungs.
right. Okay, they got asymmetric lungs. They got a liver on one side, stomach on the other side. Then they got their pancreas and gallbladder. Um, right there on the same side as their left lung. That could work too, right? So we've got the brood pouch on one side and then the gastrointestinal system going on the other side.
You'd end up with some kind of weird snake flounder thing.
Well, and I mean, during their, while they are gestating, they don't have to be particularly mobile, especially if they are
Yeah.
in a kind of monogamous situation.
Yeah, so they could totally just dig a specific like brooding chamber or something,
Yeah.
and just remain there until the young are born.
Yeah.
And that actually maybe could tie into the evolution of the eusociality and the brood care, because they might not be able to afford producing like really well developed young,
Mm-hmm.
because the bigger and more developed they are, the more time and more effort they're gonna have to expend into the actual brooding process within this brood pouch. So maybe the young only remain in the pouch for a relatively short time, and so they emerge in a relatively underdeveloped state,
Right.
and then they'll rely more on like external care from the workers, for example.
And this can originally be from, because if they are underdeveloped and they're staying around longer, then those children could then help take care of their younger siblings from
Yes.
successive broods.
You've got overlapping generations, which is, yeah, exactly what we need for eusociality.
Fantastic. What do we got here? Hi, Goody Rictus. I saw that you were here at 4 a.m. my time. Already showcased your comment. And I will make these a bit more furry in the kind of final cut, so we can do our best to kind of combine the fear of rodents as well as the fear of snakes. So we can have beaked rodent snakes, or snake
Beaked
rodents.
rodent snake crocodilians.
Yes. Try to make him look a little fuzzy. Because if I don't, I may forget that he's supposed to be fuzzy.
I don't know enough about like material culture to think of a specific example, but I don't know, maybe this fur could have some kind of special property, like the omnidirectional thing. I don't know if some culture of the Dovians could find some particular use for that.
Oh, I'm sure they could. I mean, they could make it into like hats and mitts and stuff like that. Because like moleskin is particularly good for certain applications, especially when you don't want things. I believe when you don't want things getting wet. Yeah. There we go. Now he looks kind of fuzzy. And I guess these could be eating the, Dovian invertebrates, which are essentially the equivalent of Earth insects. Oh, we've got. Is there already a Sophont species on the planet? Yes, they are the Dovians. And they are, for all intents and purposes, legally distinct humans. And that's, because the project is sort of exploring world building through the social sciences, and I want to talk about anthropology and archaeology and things like that. So being able to apply those to a person that is human ish for all intents and purposes is quite I think it's important. So the speculation is going to be based more on variation that we see in the archaeological record as well as in the ethnography and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think he looks pretty cute. Adding the little white dot to the eye really does a lot
It does.
to make them look cute and a little alive. I noticed.
Yeah.
Gives them the spark of life. Feeling very Promethean today. All right. So we got the fossorial ones. We're also going to work with the Dovian exterminator. Well, there's your problem. You've got beaked rodent snake crocodilians up in there. Yeah. I guess the other kind of issue they could have is just a bunch of dragons. They've got a ton of dragons just in their attic. And the exterminator has to go up there in like a full suit, or else he'll get sprayed with a variety of chemical irritants.
Could you have a type of dragon that helps to get rid of the rodent snake crocodilians?
Yes, that is certainly the plan. It's like every morning I wake up and I smell the whiff of mustard gas. It's like, uh-oh. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, so Bib and I have been doing some of the Spec Bio streams since the beginning of May, and then prior to that, I've got speculative geography. So we're doing like regional climate mapping. Oh, thank you so much. Exterminators wearing full plate, yes. I think that's going to be a bit of a theme for the different creatures that they have to deal with. All right, so we got these, and I would like, some of them are going to be smaller and more, I guess, nimble and things. This one's a little chunky, but that's good. I think a little chunky one is cute.
There are some there's some legless lizards that are quite sort of short bodied and quite sort of fat.
Excellent. Oh, it was great to see you. Thanks for dropping by.
Good night.
All right, so we've got, and for these ones, we're talking about, so there's going to have to be, for the eusociality, let's bring this down a bit. Procreate does the thing where if you push something off the edge of the canvas, it'll just delete it. So I've got to be careful not to push it down too far. If you do it in, like, I don't know, InDesign and Photoshop and stuff, it doesn't readily do that with most things. I guess it's part of keeping the file sizes smaller, I suppose. Okay, so we need, so we're going to have workers. And we also need soldiers.
Oh, so it depends, yeah, how far you want to push the actual cost system of it all, because like the sort of primary distinction, the only one that's actually mandatory is one between breeders and helpers.
Okay.
That's the top level. Like, the defining thing about eusociality is that some members of the group never breed, and so this can be a facultative system, like you have with meerkats and naked mole rats, where it is possible for a non-breeder to become a breeder, and usually that's done by a queuing system. So there's like a dominance hierarchy within the group, And then when a breeder dies, like in the case of naked mole rats, when a queen dies, there is this very bloody and violent civil war that happens as all of the non-breeders fight each other, very often to the death. And then one of them eventually like muscles their way in and becomes the new queen. But then
I didn't
in
know
the
naked mole
case,
rats were so metal.
yeah, they're like immune to cancer. Well, not immune, but they're highly resistant to cancer. They can survive oxygen deprivation. They have secondarily lost endothermy. They're just really weird animals. And then
So
when
I'm just thinking of a naked mole rat action movie where there's two naked mole rats in a duel for the death, and one says to the other, "It's like I'll get cancer before I ever give up this colony to you."
yeah, I mean they I would watch that movie very happily. Yeah, and then when an individual inherits breeding status, they undergo physiological changes. Their spine lengthens and their insides kind of rearrange themselves to house an expanded reproductive system. Whereas in eusocial insects, like termites, hymenopterans, ants, bees, and wasps, etc., you have obligate eusociality. And the defining thing about that is that castes are irreversible. If you are born as a worker, you will die as a worker. And it's just as simple as that. There is no social mobility, if you like, at all. So the extent, yeah, it's interesting that even though arguably facultative eusociality has evolved a couple of times in the history of vertebrates, as
Yeah.
far as we're aware, obligate eusociality has never evolved in vertebrates. And there's several sort of
Oh.
ideas for why that might be the case. It could just be that just, no group happens to have gone in that direction. That's possible. But
Yeah.
I remember reading a paper about this in university, and I wish I could find it again. I've tried looking for it, but
I hate
they
when that happens.
yeah, they made this line. They had this line of reasoning where that it's to do with, um, basically vertebrates do not have. Some vertebrates do, but I wish I could remember the nuances of the argument. But it had to do with sperm storage mechanisms because in some animals the female is capable of storing the male sperm and choosing which sperm to use to fertilize her eggs. And this is like essential for the kind of eusociality that insects have.
Oh,
But
Kate says eusocial mobility.
yes, no eusocial mobility in hymenopterans.
Okay, so hear me out.
Mhm.
Uh, the female uh, limbless griffins won't be able to choose the sperm because there is male brooding. However, we have established previously, we talked about how there are different chambers in the brood sac, and the
Mhm.
male could take eggs that are ovideposited by the female griffins and store them in one sac and then fertilize eggs in a different sac. So there could be a mechanism
Mm,
in their brood pouch for sorting eggs.
yeah. So yeah, I think yeah, it's one of those areas where it just we just sort of don't really know enough um, to come down definitively on what the actual like extent of eusociality in vertebrates could be. But I think that's a um, reasonable enough justification for saying that we could have like I think that I don't really see anything like stopping obligate. I don't think there's anything like about vertebrates that just makes obligate eusociality impossible. So, yeah, I think that this could work.
Yeah. Brood sac sorting chambers. New sentence. All right, so we got brood sac sorting chamber. I hope this is the this is the good active spec bio project that Shronium is talking about. And because so they're able to sort to some degree which eggs are fertilized.
Yes.
Because of course, we have the male the male gryphons, the bulls that are doing the gestating.
So we have a bizarre inversion of the because it's usually referred to as cryptic female choice when this happens, but in this case we've got cryptic male choice, which
Cryptic male choice. If you told me the term outside of the context cryptic male choice, I would be like, oh, that's what archaeologists did, or archaeologists quote unquote, like 200 years ago when they would like tomb raid essentially. A lot of early artifacts from ancient Egypt are due to cryptic male choice.
This has nothing to do with anything, but it just reminded me of I had a professor at university who used to make fun of physicists for the term dark matter.
Oh,
Because he
good
was
call.
like, in every other field, if our observations don't fit our models, we call that error. But the physicists have to come up with this fancy term. Oh, it's dark matter. So he was like, oh, at the next conference I'm going to give a talk, and I'm going to go, oh, well, the reproductive output of this particular the clan of meerkats was much higher than expected. So clearly, there's a lot of dark biology going on around these meerkats.
That is excellent. And Soup Crime is getting ahead of where my brain is where I was planning to go. The Snowdens, to be male dominated with a king and have subordinate females, or would it be more likely to have a ruling couple? I think both are reasonable.
So eusociality. Oh, go ahead.
I'm thinking that we're going to have two kinds of eusociality. For the larger ones, larger ones, something that someone could have as a pet, I guess. Their eusociality would be more, what was it? Facultative, the eusociality.
Sure.
And you would have this monogamous couple. I think that would be a good thing to do with the breeders and helpers. This would be kind of like the queuing base system. I would like the case system to be with like smaller ones. So you have writhing colonies of Snowdens. And I do think in that case, you can certainly have maybe a king instead of a queen. Though I don't know how much that reflects the actual social organization.
So when it comes to like all forms of cooperative breeding, including eusociality, in order for them to evolve, it is absolutely necessary that they at least pass through a stage of being monogamous, because in order for it to in order for it to be worth it in terms of the amount of fitness that you gain, all of the young must be as closely related to each other as possible, so that like when a sibling helps another sibling, they are helping to, a substantial portion of their own genes to propagate. So it all ultimately ties back to monogamy. However, once a species reaches the point of obligate eusociality, there is this, and there's still a lot of research being done about this, but there's this concept of the point of no return, where basically they are so committed to eusociality, the caste distinctions have been so clearly defined that there's no going back. And once that happens, it's quite common for eusocial animals to revert to other mating systems. So like bees, for example, I believe bees have the highest rates of polyandry of any animal. Like a single bee queen can have as many as 300 mates at a time. And I can't remember the name. There's a species of ant where any given nest can have like up to 400 queens or something. So yeah,
Up
you
to
can get much
400
more
queens.
exotic systems after this so-called point of no return, but that would
Okay.
be exclusively for the obligate varieties.
All right. This is facultative. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So we have the limblessness, and then we have ones going off like this way that are like solitary or, minimally social, right? Like they couple or have serial monogamy or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
There is also such a thing as I actually can't remember what it's called, but like um it's not facultative eusociality, it's like seasonal eusociality, I guess. Like there are some
oh,
bees
okay.
that are only eusocial sometimes. Like most of the time they will be solitary, but if it's like a particularly hard season, they will often congregate and form hives, but only temporarily.
I mean, that could be a reason why this starts, to be honest, because they're
Yeah.
going through a decent amount of variability as the climate is
Yeah.
changing.
As ultimately one of the biggest driving factors for eusociality is a high cost of dispersal. If the chances of you leaving your home nest and going out and finding a mate and producing a clutch of young on your own are just very, very low, and it's just safer to stay at home and help care for the next batch of your parents' offspring, then that is basically a fundamental prerequisite for eusociality to evolve.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I do like the fat tail. Originally, that was, a limitation of my ability to draw, but you know what? I'm enjoying it.
Yes, yes, they would, Kate. The Neotets would find the Snowdens to be very cute because they tend to like long, limbless, worm-like animals. That fits their baby schema. So these things would be quite cute to them.
So we have not hives, colonies. Yeah, because we have like what do we call like rat colonies, so that sort of thing. Yeah, let's have a colony.
I think, yeah, in the context of eusociality, I think colony is standard.
There we go. We have colonies with tyrant bulls. I like that more than king.
Mm.
So that's where all the like kind of exotic mating systems are going to be located. All right, so we start with like sort of seasonal facultative eusociality, which, and this is not like, this may not be like a cladistic distinction. So there may be several groups of Snowdens that go in like they become eusocial in different places. And so, some of these obligate eusocial groups with the castes may not be like exactly related to each other. There may be go a little bit off, which could be fun because it could give us, different some variability, and you could have something that's kind of like, yeah, ferret or like a rat sized, related to something that's like, little little snaky guy
Mhm.
that is a tyrant bull over a writhing colony of very angry eusocial furry guys.
Mhm.
And then at some point there will be some weird what are they called? I don't know, like evolutionary sociology people who are like, no, we should organize our societies like the limnus colonial colony eusocial Snowdens. People are like, what are you talking about?
As the alpha male.
Yes, this is, but they're little. They're like this big.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. So, yeah, and then we wanted to talk about workers. What do the Davians find cute? I think the Davians will largely find things cute that we kind of find cute. But the thing is, they are going to have different domesticates. So a lot of their domesticates are going to be, the monotrematiforms, or they're going to be gryphons, or they're going to be varieties of dragon. So, and what happens to those critters when they domesticate and start looking more neotenous is going to be interesting. But yeah, like when, uh, yeah, so it's not going to be too out there. But I mean, there are going to be people who have, like, I don't know, fancy Snowdens, right? Like, we have fancy mice, fancy rats. I'm sure people have met, the caricature of like the snake guy or the ferret guy, which I'm sure is owning ferrets as pets. Is that more common in the UK?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Um,
It might be in like some parts of northern England more popular,
okay.
but I've never been to Yorkshire, but I've been everywhere around it. So
Because in my mind, it's
hmm.
more of a British thing, but
Because like yeah, ferret legging is definitely a thing
yeah.
in northern England. So
So I'm sure there will be the Snowden guy in certain Deviant societies. But there are, whole groups of Deviants who, and ancestral Deviants who lived in Zalea. So I'm sure that there will be a variety of Zaalean domesticates from, different griffins. And
mhm.
uh, I think probably the best way to deal with a eusocial Snowden infestation is to maybe release some of the solitary or less social Snowdens. So maybe the Zaalean version of a cat is more like this, which could also be fun.
Mm.
It's limbless griffins all the way down.
Wow.
And Ants Canada with these things, writhing time with pulse node instead of ants. Ants Canada. Uh, Snowden on Snowden violence. I mean, there will be critters like small invertebrates that will kind of be like ants and stuff. I don't know if we will have a creature that is so like impactful as ants.
Mm. Ants are crazy, crazy animals.
Ants Canada is a YouTube channel, but keeping ants. Yes, yes. If the Deviants make the mistake of inventing the internet and then YouTube, there would certainly be someone who would make giant I don't know, I had them when I had a lizard, like they're not aquariums, vivariums, yes. Make giant vivariums and have, very, very complex homes for the Snowdens.
There was a time long, long ago when actually, while I was at university, and my dad had an ant farm, and there was this special type of cement that apparently is like really good for certain ants. Like it's just the right sort of material for ants to tunnel through and make their nest inside. But for some reason, this cement is a lot more expensive in the US than it is in the UK. And so he asked me, like, oh, can you buy some of this cement while you're there and bring it home when you come back for Christmas? And so I had to explain to airport security why I had 2 concrete blocks in my suitcase.
I've had airport staff like pick up my bag and be like, "Do you have bricks in here?" You could say yes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have Snowden farms. I think that'll be quite fun. But we do need to, yeah. So we need to figure it out. I mean, we're to figure out the different castes or casts for the. I think, yeah. I haven't decided on what color I'm going to give them as a tincture because I do think they need their own tincture. They're going to be quite a prolific group.
If we go with the warning color idea, then the standard, definitely not universal, but the most common warning colors for animals on Earth are yellow and red.
Yes. So that would, I think, yellow as a tincture is usually ore. And I think the other one that's the other one red is ghoul, and that would make sense because they come from rose gryphons. So then these could be ghoul gryphons. And I think that, and I did want. There's another tincture which is sanguine, which is more like a bloody color, and I wanted to save that for the group of the insectivorous ones that come back to be terrestrial carnivores after being arboreal.
The knife-faced baboons.
Yes, I think them being the sanguine griffins is quite fitting.
That would make sense.
So these can be the ghoul griffins. So they can have red markings and things on their scales, and then they can have a variety of different fiber colors. Fibers, more like vibers. I was on YouTube. I was watching videos on heraldry, and it dropped a French one on me, and ghoul is spelled differently in both of them. No, not that. There. Okay, cool. That is how it's spelled in English. Okay. And I think there's some like pretty well-known snakes that are like, with red patterns. So I think that works. I think people will understand what's going on here. Yes, and then we have the insectivorous group. I mean, there's going to be a variety of them that just kind of keep this form or have variations of this form. I mean, maybe some of them get bushy tails and look squirrel-like. I mean, there's, a lot of opportunity for variation on this. And, over, the last, 66 million years or whatever, I mean, we started mammals started, with a variety of shapes, but we did have like small rodentish shapes, and we still have a lot of small rodentish critters today. So,
and before rodents, you had multituberculars, which looked basically the same as rodents.
Yes. Will there be gliding rose gryphons? Yes, I will say there will be gliding rose gryphons. Especially because we're going to talk about some arboreal ones, which are
Yes.
the insectivorous ones now. When we talked about these in the past, I want to look at the derpy one that I did. Here we go. We have that they are arboreal. They're pseudobeaks, and I guess their bottom tusks. Then this one kind of looked like a woodpecker, and I'm sure some of them could go in that direction. But we also want, and I think we talked about tongues in the past. Oh no. I still wanted to talk about the case before we move on. Because I mean, the workers are going to be smaller and whatnot. For the soldiers, there are things I was thinking of. One is that they could be venomous, not
Yeah.
toxingenous like gryphons, but like properly venomous, and they could deliver
Sure.
venomous bites with their lower tusks, which I think would be interesting. And I guess they would be like kind of have hollow grooves on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other one that I was thinking of is that they could maybe develop their pseudobeaks to be more robust, to be longer, for the soldiers, so that they are better at like defending the
Yeah.
colony. I was gonna say hive for a sec.
So the workers would not be venomous then.
No.
I think that makes sense.
Especially perhaps like maybe someone back here, maybe developing venom could be something that's common. I mean, especially if part of our idea for these is that they have various fur colors and scale colors that are trying to ward off, warn predators that they're not good to eat. But maybe this is something that develops later in life, perhaps. And if the workers are more neotenous, then they don't develop this. I mean, it could the venom and I mean in venomation. I'm thinking about the monotremes and stuff like that, and for some of them, it is specifically associated with mating.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be just because the development of the different casts is pretty much driven by phenotypic plasticity. So if an individual is a worker, it could just be that the mechanism that causes the development of the venom glands just doesn't get activated, so they just remain non-venomous.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, and I guess most of the soldiers and workers and things like that would then be female in this case, perhaps.
So,
or they could be pouchless males.
Yeah, they would. So, again, it kind of depends on how crazy you want to go, because I think the more likely option is to just stick with what termites do, where termites have pretty even sex ratio. I'm pretty sure, just equal numbers of males and females, and any both males and females can fill the role of workers or soldiers or what have you. Whereas in the hymenopterans, because they've got their crazy haplodiploid system, where basically the sex determination system they have, um, an unfertilized egg will hatch into a male, whereas a fertilized egg will hatch into a female, which means that
Oh, okay. Yeah.
it gets kind of well, I guess there's a lot of math involved, but essentially what this means is that um, males are more closely related to their sisters than their sisters are to them. Um, it's called relatedness asymmetry, and it gets really weird. But
Yeah.
basically, what this means is that from the colony's perspective, the um, all all workers are female, and it
Hmm.
only makes sense for the workers to be females because the females, since they're more related to each other than they are to the males, they want more females in the hive, and
Mm.
so they actively you get this weird sort of antagonistic relationship between the queens and the workers because the queens want to produce an equal number of males and females, but the workers want to bias it in favor of females. So a lot of the times, the workers will actually tamper with the eggs and kill the male eggs to bias the
Oh
sex
no.
ratio in favor of females. But in some species, the queen knows that the workers are going to do this, and so she has like particular countermeasures that she can use to try and. So generally speaking, what we see in ant colonies is that it's a 3-to-1 ratio of females to males, and the males are almost always just produced in the run up to breeding season. Um, just when the only essentially they only exist as a mechanism for outbreeding. Like when it's time to actually create a new colony, then we produce the males. Other than that, the nest is entirely female.
Okay.
Um, so, but yeah, that's unless we want to say that haplodiploidy happens in this group, which would be very
No,
weird.
and I think we can leverage the well, because what we do have is the eggs can be put in different areas of the brood pouch and moved around for different levels of heating, and this can affect the sex ratio of the
Mhm.
offspring.
Yes.
And I think perhaps this could be leveraged to instead produce different numbers of like workers and soldiers and things like that.
Mm.
Uh,
If I, hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that it could be that the mechanism of phenotypic plasticity that determines cost is like it evolves from the same mechanism that leads to the sex dependent
yeah.
the temperature dependent sex determination. So yeah, it could be that yeah the eggs developing at different temperatures will control what cost they become. Wow.
Okay. And with that, I think we're ready to take our break.
Hmm.
Um, so, uh, for those of you who are new, we always take about 5 minutes near the middle of the stream to praise the green dragon, whose body is the earth and whose tail is the sun, and who nourishes us, and where all warmth comes from. And Bib and I will do that by taking a 5 minute break, and I'm gonna go get some more coffee. So
And I shall get some tea.
see everyone in a few minutes, and praise the sun in your own way. All right, and we are back.
Hello.
There we go. And just quickly before we continue, if you haven't already, I'm just encouraging you to like and subscribe. If you can also, comment or hype. That always helps if you can't hype. I don't think everyone can hype yet. And, just a shout out to the Patreon members. Some of you are here or just left. What is going on? Getting all sorts of different alerts. Okay. Yeah, shout out to all the members on Patreon. Super grateful for all of their supports. You can sign up for the Patreon to support the channel and, help keep my enthusiasm going, even when I have all sorts of other stuff going on. Patreon members get behind the scenes updates, they see videos early, and they can also participate in shaping the future of the channel. The next video after the one that's coming out in the next month or so was chosen by Patreon members. You can also support Bib. Bib's Patreon link is in the description as well as a link to Bibliridion's primary channel where you can learn more about Tira 292b.
Thank you.
We've also done other stuff before. I mean, I think our collaboration where we were talking about states and polities and early urbanism is quite popular. That was part of the World Building Festival last year. And we're going to be doing something together again for this year's World Building Festival, which I'm looking forward to.
More domestication.
More domestication. And what do we got? Oh, yeah. Oh, Kate had to run. Well, it was great to see you, Kate. Soup crime. Is homemade hot cocoa with marshmallows in it soup? Please discuss. And yes, everyone remember to take care of yourself. Have a drink. Have your meds, The golden-tailed green dragon always encourages those sorts of things. All right, so now... Yeah, and as far as flying squirrels, I mean, there are some sprites there are some monotraumatforms that are related to sprites that glide. And in the next video, you'll be seeing another member of that broader taxonomic group. I think the gliding ones will get in there eventually. But there's always so much to do.
Yeah.
If I gave a video outlining the important species for each ecoregion, I would be spending years just talking about different creatures. And I want to talk about the Dovians. So I'm probably going to intersperse the Dovian videos, talking about like their, I guess the equivalent of their like Neolithic or culture with more more of the bioregional videos. All right, so for the insectivorous ones, because we just finished talking about the case system and how we are putting together cryptic male choice with temperature-dependent sex determining castes. So that is cool.
And I'm just doing... Yeah, I just looked this up because I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but I've just confirmed that, yes, it's in termites, even though they are classically monogamous and you do have a single queen and a single king, there are often secondary and tertiary queens that act as like backup queens. Polygamous termites are a thing.
So we're going to have backup bulls and queens, I guess.
Yeah. And another pretty common, I guess would be like a subcaste. Like you see this in naked mole rats, where you have dispersers, which are basically the immature stage of the kings and queens that are designed to when the nuptial flight happens, they just go off looking for a mate. And then those that do find a mate, they then mature into the kings and queens.
And we were talking about flying ants dispersing earlier, and then you were also talking about the type of concrete that ants love to dig through.
Yes.
And it may not be very common in the United States, but I'm pretty sure they used it to build the apartment building I live in. Because every summer we have everything that isn't caulked and stuff like that. Flying ants sort of rise up into certain areas of the apartment. It's not a consistent problem. Like, we don't have insects like just in the apartment besides like the occasional spider or something like that. But yes, like when the dispersers are dispersing, there's I've seen like ant mounds and stuff outside, ant hills. Why do termites get mounds and ants get hills?
Good question.
But yeah, you have ant hills outside and stuff, so I guess they're just kind of dispersing underground, and some of them come up through the building. But I was trying to like finish a chapter of a dissertation, and I had a conference coming up, kind of like now, but we had an early summer, and there was a heat wave, and during this very stressful period of time, we're also suddenly invaded by flying ants.
Wow.
I was like, this is not. So I would like to inflict this on the Dovians as well, so that they're just kind of minding their own business, and suddenly there's just all of these little Snowdens rising up throughout their architecture. Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Okay, so now we have the insectivorous ones, which we're going to
also. It would be remiss of me to not point out just a thing that I personally just find is very interesting. That even though ants and termites have both independently evolved eusociality and have a number of very striking similarities, they are completely unrelated. The termites are more closely related to cockroaches than they are to ants. Which
really?
is just, yeah, I just think it's a really interesting case of parallel evolution.
That's interesting. See, I would have thought they're closer related. Like, I mean, when I found out that like wasps and ants are, ants are essentially like flightless wasps, I was like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. These two species of animal are both very annoying. So that they share an ancestry. We can blame their parents for their behavior. But now that termites are more related to cockroaches, well, that just goes to show that you can have similar traits emerge.
And you also have ambrosia beetles, which are actually not monophyletic. They're not a single group. There's several different beetles that get lumped under the term ambrosia beetles because they have also evolved eusociality.
Really?
And interestingly, all three of the major groups of eusocial insects, the termites, the hymenopterans, and the ambrosia beetles, all three of them have independently invented agriculture.
Excellent. I have not really heard or encountered the ambrosia beetles. I guess they're not as charismatic or well known as termites or ants.
But yeah, they're quite cool. They have they cultivate this special species of fungus inside these burrows that they drill into wood, and the females have I think it's a special pair of limbs that are designed to contain the spores of the fungus and carry them with them as they disperse.
That's exciting. Because I was thinking, and these are These are eusocial. Are they? Do they have
Hmm.
like different castes and stuff?
I don't think they are as um, I don't think they have the same degree of caste specialization that other eusocial insects do. Um, Let me just check actually. Um,
Oh, they look fun. Very long thoraxes, I believe is
yeah, so
thorax.
from what I can immediately tell, they don't have any caste distinctions beyond breeders and non-breeders. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it is interesting that eusociality and farming seem to be so closely related.
Uh, with insects,
Yeah,
waiting for those meerkat farmers. Yeah, and it is, I mean, they tend to have more sedentary lifestyles. I mean, and if there are limitations to dispersing as why they're developing,
mhm.
intensification makes sense as an adaptation.
Yeah, more intensively harvest the resources that you have immediately around you,
And then,
and
through,
especially with. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, and I was just saying like through, and then like managing the reproduction of the species, like eventually coming from that. But what
Mhm.
I find interesting in these insects is that they actually have like is that they develop the social organization that enables them to actually do that management.
Yeah, and there's this idea that it might be related to because we see fungus farming in ants first evolves at around the same time as the KPG extinction event. And
Hmm.
it's thought that during that time, because there was so much dead biomass, like all the forests were dead because the sun had been blocked out, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the fungi were really thriving at this time. And so fungus might have just been like a particularly common resource for this sort of several million year window. And then as conditions returned to normal, the fungus could only survive in very particular environments. And so the ants had to sort of uh, modify the environment to make it useful for fungus cultivation. And thus, you ended up with farming.
There we go. I mean, he doesn't look as derpy as the other one. Having these longer jaws, and because they're catching insects as well, we can have these sort of secondary serrations along the tooth
Mm.
so that they can snap them up. And these are more tusk-like, I guess. I think how graceful does yeah, that looks all right. I mean, I may make their snouts a little shorter in there. Maybe it just looks weird because they are weird and not because my proportions are a little off. Because these are like the essentially the final teeth.
Yeah.
Um, so if I'm thinking about what a whatchamacallit looks like a crocodilian, and thinking about where their final teeth are at the end, then no, yeah, I guess that makes sense. All right, I'm gonna go in a bit quicker in doing the rest of the body here. But these will be more, I guess, rodent and what is it, like lizard-esque, I guess we were thinking about. And I can keep working on them because I'll probably get some of the proportions off while I'm sketching this out. And I have been noticing how kind of weird crocodilians look compared to other like similar animals. Just like the way that their skeletons look, especially in the ones that developed standing on their hind legs, is
Yeah.
oh no, not standing on their hind legs, but like supporting their body weight with their legs under themselves is very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of because we just happen to have ended up with only two extant species of only very distantly related archosaurs. You know, we've got crocodilians and we've got birds, which, you know, all of the diversity that separates them has been lost, and you know, you had some very weird stuff mixed up in the older varieties of archosaurs. So yeah.
Just that, you're normally doing, I don't know, like, yeah, normally birds. And I'm normally drawing things like birds and mammals and stuff like that. And then drawing crocodilian, it's like, oh, your skeleton works differently. This is a new challenge. And even like the jaw, like how their bites form together and having like kind of like that rise at the end of the bottom lip is just
Yeah.
very, very distinct. These ones are going to be plantigrade because they're going to be climbing, because we're going to have a bunch of arboreal species, but they're also going to climb on rocks and other stuff like that. And they're going to be more insectivorous. One thing that we have not done as much, which is one of the things that I want, like, one of the big wants, is the various head displays and horns and things like that. So I'm thinking for these about some very like distinctive head displays, like and this is a very short tail. They're not going to have tails that short. This is unacceptable. Thinking of what is the lizard that shoots blood from its eyes?
Oh, the horned lizard.
The horned lizard. There we go. Let's look at some. And there's also frills and things like that. But I think I don't think we need to have something like that. And that reminds me a lot of Jurassic Park has. I was just watching. I remember the name.
Dilophosaurus?
Dilophosaurus, thank you. Like, having that frill and stuff. And I've already leveraged the Dilophosaurus crest for some of the dragons, because I think it's a very neat crest design. So maybe something will be frilled, but I'm not thinking these ones will.
I don't think I need to clarify that the frill that they gave the Dilophosaurus that has absolutely no basis.
No basis. No muscle attachments. Haven't found any soft things or whatever, soft tissue.
Looks cool.
Just looks cool. Yeah. So to be fair, we are finding like a decent amount. Some like when we do find dinosaurs that have non-avian dinosaurs, even avian dinosaurs that have some soft parts that have been fossilized, we do find like interesting like crests and other fleshy bits that wouldn't necessarily leave attachments and those sorts of things. Like what is it, like the various skin flaps that like turkeys and chickens, like cockles and stuff like that.
Or even something like an elephant's trunk.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that have? Couldn't we see like strong muscle attachments on the skull? Or
to some extent, yeah, there would probably be. I'm not an osteologist, so I couldn't tell you any of the specifics, but yeah, there would probably be suggested. Like I think in All Yesterdays they have a theoretical reconstructed elephant, and they interpret it as having just like some sort of large like nose-like structure, but not necessarily like a full trunk. So there would be hints and suggestions of a trunk, but nothing to actually. You would have to kind of read between the lines to properly interpret it as a trunk. So Yeah, the Dilophosaurus scene in the original Jurassic Park was one of those scenes when I was a kid that I absolutely could not watch because I just thought it was too scary.
Oh my
The
goodness.
T Rex, the raptors, everything else completely fine, no problem. But specifically the Dilophosaurus was too scary for me.
I was a big fan of the Dilophosaurus. I think that was one of my favorites.
And they also have it spitting venom, which
Yes.
is a choice.
Very. I mean, when I was thinking about doing these dragons, I was like, oh, the Dilophosaurus is right there.
Which actually reminds me, the going back to the snake detection hypothesis thing, that is another piece of evidence that's sometimes pointed to is that spitting cobras,
Yeah.
spitting venom is kind of a weird trait to have because it's just inherently less reliable than if you can actually like bite onto your prey to deliver the venom. So why would you evolve to spit it? And if you look at the way that spitting cobras actually release their venom,
Hmm.
it's optimized to kind of spray pretty much exactly at like human eye level. So the idea is that yeah, it was specifically an adaptation for fending off humans,
I
which
mean, we do have it coming.
I can't really blame them.
So we're gonna have more of a spiky little guy here. Um, you know what? He doesn't look half bad. Uh, they are going to be insectivorous. They are going to be quite good at climbing. Oh, yeah, I gotta change my brush. There was a brush I was using a little while ago that was actually like a decent one to write cursive with. Because if you pick one that's chunky and doesn't have like like a chisel, like an angle to it, then it doesn't tend to look very good. But where was the? This is just because I'm anxious about my yeah, like this one here. That looks a bit nicer. I'll have to settle on finding one. All right, so they're going to be um, yeah, so they're going to be relatively good at climbing on rocks and on trees. Um, oh, and then one of the other things, I think we're talking about the spread of metamorphlora in the last episode. Um, and I forgot that when I was gaming it out, because metamorphlora becomes a thing in that kind of like 100 to 75 million year ago thing. So when these mass extinctions are actually happening. Um, so I don't actually have it, but I mean, Arukia, where they kind of come from, would be about here at that point in time, I believe. Yeah, something like that. Also, the prime meridian in this changes. But when it's in that spot, I think this would be closer to it. Blue dragons or early Arukian dragons have already made it here by like then they're dispersing and things like and they're filling various niches so that kind of in this kind of 60 million year mark these dragons are eating the fruits and those sorts of things and then flying over here and then dispersing. So we've got certain metamorphlora whose fruits whether they're nuts or what have you or something like the coconut or whatever are being dispersed by currents in like this area, so they're getting there that way. And then we also have various dragons who are flying around and dropping in their droppings, dispersing seeds. So in this period of the 75 to 50 million years, we are seeing the yeah, we're seeing metamorphlora with their more succulent leaves and things becoming more prominent. I think in the last episode I said that only starts happening after 50 million years, but I had to go back and check my notes. It's almost like we're keeping track of whole worlds here. What do we got? How do we feel about some of these arboreal lizard rodents having prehensile tails? I was thinking about that because we do have the arboreal kind of ancestors to the sanguine griffins. Where are they? Being kind of chameleon-like, so I think it would be cool for some of them to develop the prehensile tails.
Or a Drepanosaur claw tail, which
Or the Drepanosaur.
I love Drepanosaurs.
Oh, they're the ones that look kind of, I was going to say wonky, kind of like hunchbacked, right?
Yeah, they got this weird sort of crest on on their back, and they've got a weirdly fat, possibly prehensile
Oh, this is
tail.
Nick's illustrates. Oh, I love Nick's illustration. Big shout out. Lots of inspiration. Oh, what? It didn't bring me to the Drepanosaur picture. Anyway, we can see it here. Very cool. I don't think we can see the tail as well. Let's go over here. Ah, here we go. This is the one on the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Weird animals.
And I mean, we do have various structures forming from like the ossiderms and things like that, and we get things like the like with stegosaurs and stuff. Those plates are just, I guess highly derived ossiderms. So, having a claw at the ends, like this bony protrusion, it wouldn't be a claw per se, but I think that's something easily done.
Yeah, I would say so. Some sort of just like hooked structure to give the tail a bit more grip. You can wrap it around a branch to secure yourself.
And okay, how about I go in here and get the scales, spiky scales. Oh, and I think having more spikes on the tail would be useful. I mean, there are, we know there are lizard. I mean, I've had anoles that drop their tails with a moment's notice. As I had a couple of them who, just kind of like I barely grazed their tail and they were like, time to drop it. And then I found myself, I think I was like, I don't know, 12 or something, putting polysporin with a Q-tip on the tail of my lizard.
Oh.
His name was Cutie. And now, so we've got this one. So let's copy paste. Let's drop it down here. And let's kind of change this tail a bit. And we can kind of do a bit of a curl. I mean, I'm probably going to go in and edit this later. And just kind of change the rest of the spikes and things too. But
Drepanosaurs also have insanely weird forelimbs, by the way.
they do with the little. They have like, it looks like they got thumbs.
They've got one finger that's evolved this like big scythe sort of claw, but the actual bones of the forelimb are extremely weird, and I still don't understand how, because they're the only group of vertebrates that I know of where the radius and the ulna are at right angles to each other.
That is pretty wild. And like the claw, I mean, we don't see the keratin sheath to it, so, great. We don't see the keratin sheath on this claw, but it would probably, that's pretty substantial. Yeah, see, this is where I get this like hunchback look from.
Yeah, they've got that weird. The cervical vertebrae has that crest.
Is this the? Oh, this is the pterosaur heresy guy. Never mind.
Oh yeah, we.
Here's a better one. Let's look at the research gate. Oh, that's a different species. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, so some of them had different claws, but that is pretty cool.
Another group that I really wish had made it to the present day.
The trypanosaurs.
Yeah.
Well, for some of these, I mean, yeah. I think I like to imagine those alternate future the alternate presents where something like a Scansorioptid or whatever made it instead of birds, like some other paraves, and then people alive today find fossils of like, I don't know, like an Archaeopteryx or something, and they're like, oh, it would have been really cool if we had
it's the
feathered flying creatures instead of these like patagium flyers.
Yeah, the survivorship bias thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot how to spell already. Trypanosaurs, neat tail. We're just finding more ways to make the sanguine gryphons more terrifying. They have like curled tails with like hooks on the end. I don't know if they'd use them for anything, but they definitely look menacing as they're prowling around the savannah.
Could be a social signal kind of thing. I mean,
yeah,
hyenas and canids and things use their tails for different kinds of displays in social interactions.
So some of the morphs are going to be very spiny, just to kind of deter predation. And like for the tail, I'm thinking like of like, I don't know, was it? I think there are spiny. Is it spiny-tailed mice? Or am I conflating two things?
It's spiny something mouse. Yeah, the spiny mouse is a type of rodent.
Okay. Oh, is there a scaled-tailed mouse? No, their fur is spiny, and they've got osteoderms in their tails. Okay, so I was conflating two different things, but they do have osteoderms in their tails. So I think it would be interesting that these critters, they have osteoderms in their tails, and they are spiky. Not that they lose their tails, but if something tries to bite their tail, then they get these spiky scoots.
And there is a sheath-tailed mouse, apparently.
Yes, and the sheath could come off.
Yeah,
it's bitten.
Which I didn't know about. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, they're the sheath-tailed mouse and the spiny mouse and a couple of other of those critters have very interesting like regenerative capabilities that we don't see in other mammals, and that makes them like an interesting place to study.
I had a friend who was doing a PhD in regeneration in Amphioxus, which is a lancelet, a sort of stem vertebrate. I wonder, if there's some overlap between the two. I don't know enough about cellular mechanisms of regeneration to know, but yeah.
I don't think I made a note about their tusks yet. No, I did not. And the Dovian invertebrates, their equivalent of bugs, are going to be showcased in the next video. So we'll have, and I'm excited for that. I think they look pretty good.
I do like bugs.
right, so I'll probably just do one of these. I may do the hooktail one for the thing next time. I think that would be neat. Get some variety in there. And then I will also finish doing the large-jawed apex predator. What's going on? Ah, I see what happened. But if we look at... So then if we look at 75 to 50 million years ago, if we add these two critters to it, then we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we'll have 11 kind of like major groups of animals coming out of the coming out of the mass extinction and diversifying in this period of time between geologically. Where do we go? Here we go. So geologically, the 75, the period we're interested in ends in this 50 million mark, and that is when Polomia, which is this northern continent, actually connects with Protobacera, which is the growing core of the supercontinent. And that is what triggers the more rapid cooling that starts to happen. And then the next geologic event that separates, this 50 to 25-ish million mark, is then when Arukia collides with southern Zaalean. And it's during this period of time that we'll probably also see some of these Zaalean critters moving into this area. And we also have dragons moving into here. But, we do still have quite significant mountains along here from the previous boundaries. And then we also, as it's moving north here, we've got mountains coming up along there. So we do have some barriers to kind of maintain the relative isolation of this bioregion, where, the rest of Protobacera is one whole region. Though they will still get the rose gryphons and their descendants, which is going to include the red gryphons, and like the insectivorous gryphons and those ones, all the Snowdens that we're coming up with. And what was the other one? I think lizard rodents, lodents that we're coming up with.
When you say Australian bugs, Jake, I'm curious as to which bugs you're referring to. Are we talking like the New Zealand weta? Or
mirror spiders. Those are Australian.
Mirror spiders?
Yeah. So there is a byproduct of spider digestion, which many spiders store, but they store it in a sort of non-crystalline structure. But some of these spiders store it in a more crystalline structure that overlaps near the surface of their, exoskeletons or whatever. Let's look at them. And they create these I just looked up mirror. That's good. And they create these reflective.
Wow.
Oh yeah. No, nobody can really see that. Let's click out on this. I want this one. Thank you. So they have these reflective kind of pockets that they can actually contract and expand.
Yeah.
So they can make these mirror patches bigger or smaller. And when people are asking, like, like this is a small spider, it, lives in a jungle, it's preyed upon by things, like it's eaten by a lot of stuff. This doesn't seem like a very good adaptation. The thing, though, is that when you're in a jungle, there's all sorts of different light sources. You have raindrops and rain pooling on leaves. That's reflecting light. You've got sun glints. That's this like these rays of sunlight coming through from that make it through the canopy and the emergent zone into the understory. So by reflecting light, they are not looking like a spider.
Mm.
Because what their goal is to not look like a spider. It is
Yeah.
not to hide themselves. And this also kind of goes for other species that are, so like you have spiders that are like bright blue and like stuff like that hanging out in jungles. And it's like, well, like it doesn't look like a spider. It's not the color that a predator would expect a spider to be. It looks strange. And its ability to contract and expand these mirror spots can actually confuse a predator as to where it specifically is, which is quite cool.
A unique
Jake has
form of
more
defensive
about-
mimicry. Yeah, I just looked this up. Yeah, it's the slipper lobster, which I did not know this, but apparently is often simply referred to as a bug. That's
A
just the
slipper
colloquial name.
lobster?
Yeah.
It's just called a bug. Oh my goodness. It's just called a bug. They're not true lobsters,
No, they're not.
but they're related to furry and spiny lobsters. See, that seems like something I'd come up with, furry lobsters.
Yeah, there's a specific species, as Jake points out, the Ibicus peronii, which is the butterfly fan lobster that apparently is often simply referred to as bug.
I mean, they're not wrong. They're like, oh, I'm eating a bug. And it's like, well, yeah, I guess.
I mean, when I was a kid, I swear bug had a much more specific definition than it does these days. A bug used to be...
Were you a kid in Australia?
I was not.
Oh.
But I remember reading multiple books when I was a kid that said that bugs are a specific type of insect, that a bug is specifically a hemipteran that has like a mouth adapted for like sucking. So I'm trying to think of an example now. What's a hemipteran? Like a cicada or cicada. I never know how to say that word.
I mean, I would say
that's
cicada,
a bug.
but
that would be a true bug. Whereas
bug.
something like an ant is not a bug. And I remember
that's
this.
Wild.
Yeah, this was a thing that I remember reading, as I say, in multiple books. But then as I grow up, this distinction seems to have just disappeared.
Maybe this is your own Mandela effect. Oh, I mean, there are true bugs.
Yeah, the hemipterans are still called the true bugs.
Okay, well, and cicadas are hemipterans.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I guess if we want to call them true bugs. I mean, ants can be false bugs.
That's weird because, I mean, the name bug just comes from, like the same root as, like, bugbear. Or, like, bugaboo. It's just, like, an old term for, like, an evil spirit or something. So,
yeah.
I wonder at what point it got applied specifically to hemipterans. Seems like a very strange, like...
Well, that seems to be, like, more of, like, a taxonomic distinction than, like, a, vernacular usage of bug.
Yeah.
Because all sorts of things can be bugs. Bears can be bugs. Insects can be bugs. Younger siblings can be bugs. We can use bug in a lot of ways. But maybe Wiktionary can... Maybe somebody's already done this. There we go. General Australian. Okay, that also... rivers. Well, that seems a bit different. Oh, it's because I put a capital in. I swear. All right, here we go. Insects. Huh. Oh, in the 19th century. Interesting. Any motile small terrestrial invertebrates? Well, at least the 19th century. Speaking of advertising changes of name, a title by which those lodging house pests, bugs, are now often known. All right, so apparently people were doing it in 1874. That's true, and then pathogens are also bugs, which makes sense from the spirit thing, as you were mentioning. And they only have to do it for German. Oh. What is German doing up here? Oh, Booga, big man. German. Booga. A goblin. Oh, okay. Or a snot. Oh, yeah, I guess. Okay. Yeah, that's another fairy-esque creature. All right, let's get back to... All right, so we've got all of our critters here, and then we will be adding... let's do this. So I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to grab that one. Always got to watch my layers, or else I'll have to do the same thing like 4 times. All right. Great. Perfect. All right, so we got those. Then we can go to our height thing. These need to be small enough that people jumping onto chairs to avoid them look silly. So we got this one here. And then these ones are going to be quite small as well. I mean, not all of them will be small, but a decent number of them will be small.
We definitely have evidence that pseudoscians can get quite small. I mean, things like hummingbirds.
Oh, yes. Yeah, ends up handling capitalization. Yes. Yeah, I've had issues with Wiktionary before where I've like just plugged something in with a capital and it interprets it as being German or being a proper noun or something like that. So we'll have this, and then we'll have one more, which will be quite large. I'm thinking it'll be closer to, I don't know, maybe coming closer to shoulder height on our standard world builder there. But most of these ones that we just added are going to be quite tiny and cute. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 herbivorous critters. We've got a couple omnivorous critters. We've got the insectivorous, so carnivorous. And oh yeah, we didn't talk about what our limbless eusocial snowdents are eating.
What they're eating? Well, yeah, insects or the equivalent. Or they could be herbivorous. They could be eating like roots and things, I guess. Subterranean is, again, the whole thing with eusociality relies on having like a sort of a patchy distribution of resources. If you've got like one spot of relatively abundant resources surrounded by large stretches of relatively hostile landscape. So it could be You could have something broadly similar to what we see with like mimicophytes, which are these plants that have co-evolved with ants and like house ant colonies in their root systems. So maybe out in the desert, there's like a particular kind of tree, and this tree is like a cactus, like it has some adaptations for, you know, conserving water or something. And then you get groups of these um, eusocial snowdents that make their dens in the root systems of these trees.
Okay, that sounds good. I think there's I think it's like Aurora or something like that is another one for orange. And I'm going to be dividing some of these so that like the insectivorous, the solely sort of insectivorous rose gryphons are going to be sinister, and then the rose gryphons that are more omnivorous or herbivorous are going to be the dexter. And this comes from heraldry, depending on whether you're facing left or right. If you're on the left side of the wielder on the shield, then it is the sinister. If you're on the right side, near the fist where they're holding the shield, it's the dexter. So we can do that. And I think these ones will continue to be the Tene griffins, the herbivorous variety, like these ones. But the carnivorous ones will be orange. I think that works. But yeah, so they can eat a variety of things. They can eat, they can be herbivorous. They can eat roots. Maybe at some point we'll develop them to have agriculture.
Wow.
Seems to come up.
It does.
But it would be fun if some of them were carnivorous or omnivorous as well, especially for being pests, right? They're just kind of like wiggling into people's homes and eating an association of things. And there could probably, some of these orange griffins, some of them could be smaller and focus on eating these sorts of things. Eating the various rose and ghoul rose and ghoul griffins.
Yeah, I just looked it up to make sure. But yeah, naked mole rats typically feed on drought-adapted tubers that they dig their burrows to unearth them.
See, for a moment there, I was gonna. I thought you were gonna say they feed on their defeated enemies.
Well, I'm sure they do. I would not put it past them. They also have, I mean, this is kind of typical for eusocial things, but they also have some of the highest rates of inbreeding of any vertebrate. With the, so like in terms of genetic relatedness, average relatedness between full siblings is 0.5 because you share, half your genetic material on average. In some naked mole rat colonies, the relatedness ratio between individuals is as high as 0.81. So they are more closely related to each other than full siblings.
Naked mole rats cloning each other over here.
Yeah.
And they could probably eat fungus and other things too. Because a lot of ant species, like there are, like, I guess, there are like carnivorous ant species and there are herbivorous ant species.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Excellent. Well, I think that is going to be... Oh. Peterson's mentioned in the comments. For the rare game David is making, he suggested a chef class, which I suggested could be for carnivores to get a bonus when they kill an enemy. Oh, no.
That's cool.
What about the herbivore chefs?
I mean, I would say that's quite dark, but then again, this is a game where all these animals are killing each other, so.
That is I think these various these special monarchies are all killing and eating each other. Yeah. Kate, you've returned just in time for us to sign off. Just going over today, we spent a lot of time on the rose gryphons, creating the or developing the ghoul griffin or goulet griffins, which are fossorial, they're limbless, and then secondarily develop eusociality. We have some that were originally seasonal, becoming more facultative in their eusociality. These tend to be monogamous. And then out of that, we have a variety of smaller ones, which become obligate eusocial griffins that have exotic mating systems, like having tyrant bulls with backup bulls and cows for reproduction, obviously, with soldiers and workers and dispersers to invade people's homes when they have other things going on that they'd rather not deal with, pests coming in. And then we also have the insectivorous group, which we also had the suggestion for Trypanosaur-like hooked tails, which is cool for the more arboreal ones, because we'd have a variety of them that are hanging out in different environments, including on rocks or, in more open areas. I mean, the lizards that live near me tend to burrow to hibernate during the winter, so they probably wouldn't have the hooked tails, but yeah, so we spent time on them. So now we have our height map here, our diagram, sorry. I'm a geographer, I'm always thinking about maps. Anything's a map if you put your mind to it. We've got the Dexter rose griffins, which are taking up a lot of these rodent-like niches, and then the sinister rose griffins, which are going to be taking up a lot of these insectivorous reptile adjacent niches. And yes, we want them to be quite small, and as Bib mentioned, pseudotsuchians can get quite small. What is it, hummingbird sized?
Yeah, pretty small.
Because the smallest ones that I've been looking at are more like cat sized, so I'll have to check.
Well, I mean, if we're being inclusive of all pseudotsuchians, then that would include all birds, but
non-avian pseudotsuchians.
Yes. In terms of the crocodile line archosaurs, I don't actually know what the smallest one is, but like something like Cymosuchus was pretty small. That was like less than a meter, I think.
Oh, okay.
Let me just actually fact check myself quickly.
And then I do need to develop the larger orange griffin, which I will call the sinister orange griffin.
Yeah.
Which I'm thinking of making black or like dark gray with orange scales. So Halloween colors for the terrifying 1.5 meter tall carnivore with a head built like a T-Rex.
Yeah, Cymosuchus was 0.75 meters, so, and I have every confidence that they could get smaller than that. So I think we can totally justify tiny worm Snowdens.
Yeah, there we go. And then Jake, last time that you played, Jake firebombed an entire population of beavers.
Yeah, it was a massacre. It was me, Madeline, and Danielle on one team, and we spent like 20 minutes coming up with this really intricate strategy. And finally, when the game started, on their first turn, Jake just cast some kind of explosion spell and killed Madeline and Danielle on the very first go and set me on fire.
and so I was taking ongoing damage, and so the only thing I could do was I had like a repair thing that could restore some of my health, but that also took up my turn. So I just spent my last few turns trying to put out this fire, and ultimately I just end up dying. So
Are you playing
the whole game lasted like 3 turns.
Are you playing as like polities, or are you individual characters?
So you choose effectively a species, or that each species has their own polity,
Yeah.
and then for each of them there are individual characters that you can choose to represent that polity. So yeah, each, like, I had a character, Madeline had a character, and Danielle had a character, but we were all representatives of the beaver kingdom.
Okay, so you're all representatives of the Beaver Kingdom, and
Mm.
Jake did a genocide of the beavers with a fireball
Yes.
spell. Okay. Oh my goodness.
All that preparation. We had such a cool idea about, because like I can't remember, one of us was the engineer, and because the beavers get these bonuses to like building structures, and they were going to build like this tower and get them in the right position over here, so I could use this move to, and it was all so intricate. And then just literally the very first turn, just
Fireball.
all of it completely incinerated.
Oh my goodness. I'll have to play at some point. I've only been gleaning things about the rules from stories of games, and also from listening to the Langtime Studios live stream.
Yeah, we all started too close together. That was our fatal flaw.
Oh no. Oh. So I think that's going to be it for this week. Thank you for joining us for another entry in this live series. Like we mentioned at the beginning, Bib's going to be in Ireland at SpecCon. Maybe I can... Do I still have SpecCon up here? No, I do not. And so we are not going to be doing this series next week. Instead, I am going to have something else prepared. Here we go. I'm going to have something else prepared. Maybe we'll talk about polities. Maybe I'll do some culture building or something like that for that week. The SpecCon folks are trying to do a recording, and if not, it seems like those talks are going to become videos anyway, which would be quite cool. And then we're going to be back, continuing the Gryphons in the 50 million year to 25 million year period on June 14th.
Very good.
Excellent. So thank you everyone again for coming with us into Lands Unknown. Now Zaalean is a little more known. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can find links to my and Bib's Patreon in the description. And if this is your first time joining us, you can jump into the playlist and look at the previous Lands Unknown lives and previous collaborations that we've done together, including the States and Polities and Early Urbanism video.
Yeah. And we'll be doing more of those in the near future with the World Building Festival.
Yes, 3 months away. All right, so thanks again, Bib, for joining in this series. And to everyone else, I will see you next week.
Bye-bye.